Hello and welcome to the Fulhamish Quick Take, or should I say, hola e benvindo ao Fulhamish, as we look back at a game that had a distinct Portuguese feel to it in both personnel and the weather conditions. On a sweltering hot day in the Midlands, Fulham came away with a hard-fought point, but it could oh so nearly have been all three, as a late penalty from Alexander Mitrovic was saved by Jose Sarr, leaving the Whites with 2 points from our first two games. I'm Dan Cook, and I will be your host today, and I'm delighted to be joined by the super Stephen Sheldrake. How are you doing today, Stephen?
Oh, fantastic. And yeah, great to be back on.
Yeah, so instant thoughts on the game yesterday. It was tough weather conditions. It was 35 degrees, not used to those sort of conditions in the Premier League. What's your instant thoughts on the game?
Yeah, well, I think if we went all guns blazing like we did against Liverpool, all the players would have probably just melted into wax across the pitch. So, I think it was the right approach by Marco. And I thought across a lot of Premier League games, actually, like the tempo was a little bit slower than you might expect. Overall, quick glance thoughts is a well fought, well earned point. Happy to just keep the consistency. Compare it to Parker, and it would be what 5 games, and then we got our first point or six. And I'm just happy to see the points rolling and the performances being good. So we'll take the point from Wolves away and clearly smash Brentford next week.
But yeah, definitely. I think Wolves have shown in the past few seasons that they're a very solid Premier League team. Under Bruno Lage last season, they weren't conceding many goals, they weren't scoring many goals, so maybe 0-0 was very much on the cards. I guess the first thing that we just have to talk about is the biggest moment in the game. It was that penalty miss. Thoughts? I think first of all, to me, it seemed like a penalty. Do you agree?
Yeah, and like that's the thing that Bobby offers, which I love, is that he can strike a ball out of nowhere and get a goal, or when it's a penalty when you least expect it. And I think, yeah, it's a penalty. He does really well. An opportunity missed. It's hard because every time we miss a penalty, I look back to the like half the time to say, oh, Brian McBride and Hyder Helgson would have placed that and it would always go in. I just always think about that. But Mitro did so well on the penalties last year, and you know, yeah, it's a shame. But on the balance of the game, the chances that Wolves also missed, it's a huge point.
Yeah. And I think interesting comment here from Tony. It's definitely not the only thing that has been said so far about Mitro is that a lot of people don't see him as a reliable penalty taker. I think part of that is maybe memories of before last season when he definitely wasn't reliable from the spot. But he has scored before yesterday 7 of his last 7 penalties. So the last penalty he missed was Stoke at home at the start of last season. So what do you think? Marcus Silva was very clear in that Mitrovic is still the penalty taker and he will be going forward. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we all know that Mitrovic is a confidence player, and he just needs to be getting the goals, getting the numbers up, being happy. So, I'm happy for him to be our main man, and for me, he's our penalty taker until he misses another one. Um, within a certain period. I think if he goes out and misses the next one, then it has to be like, all right, maybe we should get someone else on that we know is probably got a better ratio. But hey, it happens. It was a save. I think he just needs to pick himself back up and score the next one, and we all move on.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one thing that does get said is that in general, if you look at Mitrovic's penalties, the keeper tends to go the right way every time. And I think that's one thing with him is that there's no deceit in how he tries to take a penalty. I think he just backs himself to hit corners.
Yeah.
And yesterday was just one of those days when he didn't. And,
Mm.
people miss penalties. It does happen. If you look at the numbers, it's roughly 3/4 of penalties get converted. So 7 of his past 8 is not a bad conversion rate, I'd say. I think we also have to touch upon the heat. I mean, I saw Elizabeth at the game yesterday, and oh my God, it was hot. And it wasn't helped by the fact that Wolves had a fire display before the game right in front of the away end. And yeah, it very much felt like I was an oven chip and I was burnt. I hear you were watching from maybe not an air conditioned room, but at least a room that wasn't outside.
That's the difference when you go abroad to like Portugal or wherever. Like they're just equipped; they have aircon, and then in England we just don't. So everything's so stuffy and ugh. But Yeah, I imagine it was quite a big day, on a normal draw in that heat. But that's what we get with football, isn't it? And following Fulham, it was good on the telly. Hard to find a stream, of course, but yeah, it was good. It was good. We looked well organised, and I think the main takeaway from me is the current squad depth, which I think we might touch on in a minute. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was definitely an issue yesterday, and Marco brought it up, and I think we could all see it watching the game. If you look at what Wolves did to try and change the game, they brought on Gonzalo Guedes, who cost £30 million. They brought on Adama Traore and Nelson Semedo, and you looked at our bench, and there wasn't an impact sub there who you could reliably say could go on and change that game. And now, obviously, we've got to take into account that Harry Wilson and Manuel Solomon are out injured. But even still, it was just a little bit uninspiring what we had to bring off the bench.
Yeah, it's like from the back, it was incredible. It was like Leno, Diop, like amazing. Even Duffy, and then suddenly up top, it was like, whoa, okay, quite very concerning and very unlucky, like you say. We're two wingers out, and having Cabana and Bobby as our two potentially backup wingers is fantastic. But I feel like we need to bring in a winger of a certain caliber that's potentially better than any wings we currently have. And one of the rumours that I'm particularly fond of would be Pulisic, and if we could pull that off, that would be absolutely incredible. But yeah, there was a lot of lack of depth, and it was crazy seeing Jay Stansfield come on in the Premier League match. But I was very happy for him, and that's the main takeaway there. So
yeah, I think that's a great takeaway from yesterday is the fact that we saw Jay Stansfield making his Premier League debut. Obviously, very exciting to see one of our own again coming through as one drops off the conveyor belt. We have another one ready to go. Where do you see Jay Stansfield's role as this season? Do you think he's going to be consistently in and around the first team, or do you think maybe a loan is the opportunity that's coming his way?
I mean, I think a loan to a Championship side where he can get regular starting football is probably key. I think he just needs to be playing, improving his worth, and getting the stats in. And it's so hard, especially in the Premier League. In the Championship, we could probably afford to bring him on when we're a couple of goals up potentially. It's just such a different ball game. But I'm happy to see him come on. I'm happy and give us all. And we've produced such incredible players over the last few seasons or even the last decade. So I'd like to keep the faith with him. He looks like he has a lot of potential. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with the current squad depth issues we have, until at the very least, until we bring a couple more players in, I think he's going to have to be on that bench and potentially making some more appearances to try and affect games. It's interesting to see that he has been, in general, played out wide a little bit in recent times, even in the youth setup. So it's quite useful to have that versatility, someone who can come on the wing or playing alongside Mitrovic or even through the middle himself. So very exciting to see Jay Stansfield coming through. But yeah, if we take Santi's comment here, he's saying, where do we think we lacked the most yesterday? Do you think it was on the wing? We seemed a little bit impotent in attack, I would say. Well, what do you think?
Probably ice packs. We probably lacked yesterday. Some slush puppies. Yeah, 100%. I was not amazed with the lineup in terms of the fact that he did stick with Rodak and Reen. I thought it was really admirable. And I love the fact that he's like, keep the squad the same until you earn your right to play, essentially. Where we lacked yesterday, yeah, I think the wings were huge. And I didn't think Cabana had a great game, if I'm honest. Thought he was quite predictable, and I love him to bits. But we lacked a lot of creativity, and Pereira is, he's a 10 for his pressing and ability on the ball, but his passing is just not there yet. So hopefully that's something that comes to fruition soon, because Kearney must be chomping at the bit to get on the pitch.
Yeah, after what was a promising performance, I think, from Andreas Pereira against Liverpool, in a game maybe where we thought he would be able to show his on-ball quality a little bit more, I think he did struggle. I think in general, we did just look a bit slow overall. I think if you look at the pace that Wolves countered us with at times, especially in that opening 10 minutes, it was just not a way that we could get at Wolves in reverse. We didn't have that pace to get in behind them, to trouble them. And so that I think with Manor Solomon and Harry Wilson out, we are going to need to find ways to get at teams like Wolves who were defensively solid, and we needed to pick a gap in between them, and we just weren't able to yesterday, which was a bit of a shame. I think we lacked that sort of creativity, and in those moments you do have to try and rely on your number 10 and your two wingers, but it just didn't quite come off yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I was getting PTSD flashbacks to when Traore came off the bench, having just been at Barcelona. I was just thinking about that 1-0 defeat back in the Premier League, and that's the player you want to be able to bring out on the wing. And I was terrified. But fair play to the defense and Marco. Like we ground it out. It's a solid point. But yeah, definitely some more depth needed on the wing there. I think we need a backup centre back if anything ever happened to Reed and Paina, a winger and a backup for Mitro, and I think we're done. Defensively, I'm very happy with us now. So yeah.
Yeah, they deserve massive credit. If you rattle off the forward line that Wolves had at any point in the game yesterday, you're looking at Daniel Podence, Pedro Neto, Hwang Hee-chan, Gonzalo Guedes, Adama Traore. I mean, that's a really, really strong forward line. And to keep a clean sheet, to, after the first 15 minutes, not give away too many opportunities, I think the back four that, again, it's the same back four that we were playing in the Championship, deserves a huge amount of credit for keeping them quiet. I mean, Adama Traore didn't get a look in when he came on. I think he hardly touched the ball.
And that's what Robbo brings, isn't it? And that's where he excels in the Premier League over the Championship. You can put him up against a Salah, Traore, or someone with ridiculous pace, and that's his trump card, isn't it? He's just so quick. And some players are just better in the Premier League, which is baffling. But yeah, Robbo is definitely one of them, and Bobby as well. I think better Premier League players.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre statement when you first think about it, but I completely agree. It's two players who seem to just be suited to how the Premier League goes, the patterns of play, the physicality of it. It really suits them. And I think finally, just as a closing word on the game yesterday, just some praise for Palinha and Reed. I thought were very, very good in the middle again. I think they are going to be a real pain for opposition attacks in midfield because they're so good at sniffing out danger. They're so good at getting in the way, breaking up play, and then trying to recycle it and move the ball on. So yeah, I thought they were fantastic yesterday. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely phenomenal. And it's the energy levels that's fantastic too. The difference between Anguissa and Paina is you couldn't imagine Anguissa absolutely like busting a gut to get back and get into a tackle, and he very much was so strong on possession, but it was like a little bit like walking football, and it was classy. But none of that nonsense with Paina, which is what we need as a team trying to fight survival. Anguissa can go into a top side where they have such a strong unit around him that he can probably stroke the ball around. Another shout out I'd like to give is Kenny Tete. I think he made a couple of insane tackles to keep us in the game. And for me, Reed and Tete were our standout performers. And again, keeping Mbabu on the bench, which is something I wasn't expecting. So again, well done, well done.
Yeah, I think Kenny Tete probably covered the most ground on the pitch yesterday. The man was up and down that right flank constantly, dealing with his defensive duties and trying to give us something in attack. So it's big credit to him. And I think we just close off. I think there's something that we have to address is next weekend. It's a big one. It's Brentford. And they're coming in off the back of a pretty decent result. Likewise, after that, Brighton looking good form. They're a good side. But thoughts of Brentford next weekend?
Well, I'm hoping. I was so impressed by Brighton, and then I saw Brentford yesterday, and I'm just hoping that Man United are so bad, and that's why they've got those freak results. I couldn't believe what I was watching when I watched the Brentford game yesterday. They were phenomenal, but equally Manchester United were awful, and De Gea, the commentator said he lost his place to this in the Spanish team to David Raya, and I was like, wow, yeah, I can see why. So, I mean, they've had a fantastic start, and again, it could be where we get another draw and we walk away and just go, okay, well, right now that's fine. I think we're still building. players need time to gel into Marco's challenging system. That's why he was so passionate about getting everyone in the preseason. And we have bad injuries. You can't escape the fact that having two huge wingers out is a problem. And maybe Solomon was unleashed a little bit too soon. Maybe it's karma for the way we did the deal. I don't know. But it should be a cracking game next week. And I'll be turning 30 the next day. So let's, bring on the 3 points. Let's do it.
Well, it would be a brilliant way to bring those bees crashing back down to earth after what's been a pretty exciting first 2 weeks for them as well. So looking forward, hopefully we can bring them down to the cottage and give Stephen a pretty nice 30th birthday present. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on today's Quick Take. There'll be a podcast recording later today hosted by Sammy. So do tune in this week to listen to that. Thanks for listening, and come on, you Whites.
You Whites.